I have people tell me sometimes they feel confused because they're just ready for things to break loose and change, but don't know how to get there, like exactly how to get there. They tell me, I don't know whether to be in the flow or match a frequency or surrender or connect straight up to source or raise my vibration or visualize or say affirmations. And they ask me, how can I just move forward? Well, today we're talking about your infinite self, your inner being, and how it has every answer you need on how to break through so you can just move forward. This podcast is all about helping you with your spiritual growth so you can overcome obstacles and manifest your destiny to crystallize all things good, basically, to have success on life's journey. It's all about getting unstuck by unlocking your hidden power. So let's get started. Hi there, and welcome. My name is Remy, like Do Re Mi. I'm a best-selling author and creator of the Get Unstuck Revolution. I help extraordinary women just like you dissolve the obstacles in your path so you can bring success to you. Now let's get started with today's video. Okay, let me jump off the screen here and switch to my laptop. Life would be a lot more productive if we'd partner up with our inner being. There's one reality where our inner being lives, and a different reality where we live as physical beings. Physical reality is where we can find ourselves feeling anxiety and confusion and other negative emotions, but our inner being never feels anxiety. Our inner being holds all the answers and just wants us to raise our vibration enough to hear. In fact, if we could become a vibrational match to our inner being, we'd have access to all the answers we need to find success. Well, if you'd like to see success in full abundance along life's journey, and if you're wanting to tap into a greater knowingness and align with the higher consciousness of your infinite self, instead of the lower ego thinking and negative thoughts that push success away, then this is for you. It's time to be unabashedly, unapologetically, happily untethered to ego thinking. It's time to align with the higher energies of our soul's path instead. This episode is for you if you wonder how to get every answer you could ever need, how to access the right path and the best path for you, and what you can do to break things loose if you're feeling a little bit stuck. Yes, these episodes are about how to find your hidden power when you want to transform challenges into successes. I like to call it the audacity of alchemy. Because when we're feeling stuck, it's never the situation that has us stuck, it's our energy about it that's become stuck in anxiety, overwhelm, doubts, worries, frustrations, indecision, and even anger. And often this is because of a spiritual injury that we've experienced, some kind of hidden trauma. So it isn't the pain of our situation, it's the pain of not being connected into the natural energy of who we really are, of being connected to that magical part of us that's a creative vibrational being who can use positive energies to create what we want and bring it into physical manifestation. We can allow our manifestations to materialize and not get stuck in the negative vibrations that block them. These positive energies that we talk about so much are where we find the magic of alchemy, because our choice of frequency, our choice of those positive thoughts and emotions can change the course of our journey. All right, so I have people tell me sometimes that they feel confused because they're just ready for things to break loose and to change, but they don't know how to get there. They don't know exactly precisely how to get there. They don't know whether to be in the flow or match a frequency or surrender and about a million other spiritual tools. And so they ask me, what exactly am I supposed to be doing so I can just move forward? Well, today we're talking about your inner being and how it has every answer you need on how to break through so you can just move forward. Our inner being holds all the answers and just wants us to stop with the chitter chatter and raise our vibration enough to connect so we can hear those answers. If we could become a vibrational match to our inner being, we'd have access to all the answers we need. Let me say that again. If we could become a vibrational match to our inner being, we'd have access to all the answers we need. You know, I had a family member a long time ago in my 20s who used to get me on the phone and chit chat on and on as if I had all the time in the world. And he was the kind of person where I'd say, I really have to go now. To which he'd say, okay, but just one more thing. You never know anybody like that. And an hour and a half later, I'd still be trying to get off the phone. And eventually I got to the point where he'd call, and right up front, I'd say, I only have about 5 minutes. Would you be able to just give me a bullet point? And our conversations became much easier, and he completely stopped calling me to jibber jabber on and on about things. Now, I'm going to circle back to this story here in just a minute. So let me sidestep. Because in business, it's a little more difficult, especially if a client is paying us to listen. And honestly, this is one of the reasons I do very little one on one work anymore, is because I got burned out with people who don't want to listen. Sure, you can relate. Okay, so the first thing we want to do is get clear about our objective. When we're in a struggle that won't break free, the first thing we want to do is get clear about our objective. We want to set our negative ego thinking aside, that voice of doom and gloom and how we don't have what we want. We want to set that thinking aside and get clear on our objective. We want to identify what we want to accomplish or where we want to be. When we do this, our inner being is all over it, creating a path for us. Our inner being knows where we have negative emotions or resistance about our situation and knows exactly how to get us to that thing we'd like to accomplish. But we have to relax a little bit. We have to stop the chitter chatter inside our head as we try and fix the situation that we're in. Because remember, we talked about this a couple weeks ago. We can't fix anything. Our situation has already manifested into our now physical reality, so we can't fix it, but we can create a new reality. So we have to stop the chitter chatter inside our head, get clear on our objective, and start connecting with our inner being so that we can receive guidance for the perfect path that we can take. Just like that family member that I mentioned a while ago, the one who just wouldn't stop talking, well, we're the same way inside our own head sometimes, right? And our inner being would love for us to just take a breath so that we can tap into the very clear perspective of what would actually help us. There's a saying that I just love. I'm going to put it up on the screen here. If you want it to be true, then keep thinking about it. As you can imagine, this is a two-way street. It works both ways for both the positive and the negative. If we're struggling and we want the struggle to be very real, then let's keep thinking about it. Think only about the struggle, and yeah, it'll get very real and very solid. It works the other way too. If we want to be out of the struggle and we want to experience, for instance, wealth, then we think only of wealth. It's the basic premise that we read in The Science of Getting Rich, where Wallace Waddles said, think only thoughts of wealth. Okay, so if we want it to be true, keep thinking about it. All right. So, what we want to know is that everything is in a state of becoming. Everything is in a state of becoming. This is true for a plant in the ground. This is true for a 5-year-old on the swing set. Everything is in a state of becoming something new. And this is also true, of course, in the larger universe. We have our physical reality and we have our unseen reality. Our physical reality is becoming something new, and our unseen reality is also taking form into something new. And of course, this goes for our thoughts as well. Those things that we want or the things that we don't want need our thoughts so they can take shape and come into physical reality. So, if we want it to be true, then let's keep thinking about it. But if we're thinking and chitter chattering inside our own brain about how wrong something is, our inner being is asking us to just let go of our negative thoughts about our situation so that we can tune in to the path that will take us where we want to go. Now, if something we want is in a state of becoming, then it makes sense that part of the formula is the surrendering or the allowing step. A plant can't become a tree if we stomp all over it. And a 5-year-old child can't become a grown up if we don't let go a little bit so they can explore life and grow up. But as you've heard me say before, the idea of surrendering or allowing isn't easy for all of us. Being in the flow of surrender isn't easy for everyone, but we can tune in to the vibrational frequency of our inner being and take guidance from there. So, if surrender seems airy fairy for you, or you find that you can only surrender for about 10 seconds before distractions grab hold, well, you might try this idea of tuning in to become one with your inner being. In other words, what I'm really saying is that we can train ourselves to think like our inner being thinks. We can tap into that stream of consciousness. We can be in that vibrational frequency with our inner being who has the answers we're looking for. So, our inner being doesn't want all our negative thinking, but does want us to raise our vibration just enough so that we can meet. We make it harder than it needs to be sometimes because let's face it, we're fixers. We quite naturally want to fix our situation in some way so we can get out of the struggle. And where we can raise our vibration is to find the positives and find the blessings. And as we do that, as we find the positives and blessings and begin to raise our frequency a little bit, we can more easily tap into the vibrational frequency of our inner being. We can more easily reach into that higher stream of consciousness. When we stop trying to fix something that can't be fixed because it's already manifested into our physical reality, well, our resistant thoughts about it won't help either. Our negative thoughts about how it needs to be fixed, well, it just locks it in place. We need to think differently. We need to think like our inner being thinks. I'll give you an example. I had a client recently who was doing digital advertising, and he was taking courses and he was hiring consultants, just doing everything to create success in his business. But his business credit card was now maxed out, and he was angry with himself for not being able to make it go right. So angry. But a couple of months down the road, he found an alternative way of doing things, and he went from spending $1,400 a month on his digital ads down to about $200 a month and making twice the revenue. So it turned out to be a good thing. Funny thing is, he said that he knew to stop spending money. In fact, he had had the urge for weeks and months to stop spending that money. And even though his inner voice was telling him that he was wasting his money, he felt like if he stopped, that he'd just be sitting on his thumbs. And he said, I had to keep trying. But in retrospect, he said that if he had stopped, relaxed, and tuned in more, he would have saved almost $10,000 and made twice the revenue. He laughed and he said, I couldn't stop thinking, and just allowed the chitter chatter inside my head to run my life and my business. Now then, let's focus on that word he used, that word allow. He said that he allowed the chitter chatter to run his life and his business. What we want to do is disallow the chitter chatter and thinking of our ego mind because of this simple rule. Well, if you want it to be true, then keep thinking about it. If we're thinking, I have no money, I have no money, I have no money, or why don't I have love? Why don't I have love? Why don't I have love? Or I'm so tired of this, I'm so tired of that. Well, our thoughts, our thoughts are creating our next life experience. Our thoughts make it come true. So if we want something to be true, then let's keep thinking about it. But let's be strategic as we do this, please. If we can see that there's a difference between a thought that we're actively thinking and a thought that we're receiving, then that distinction will help us. Our goal is to tune into our inner being so that we can receive that stream of consciousness. Here's an example. A river can't flow two different directions at one time. A river can't go east and west at one time. And if we're thinking about a situation we don't want, then we're guiding the river to a destination or an outcome that we don't want. Right? So we got to get the river flowing in one direction, and let's be very strategic about that. So I know I'm going to get this question because I do on almost every webinar. How can I turn off my thoughts when things are very clearly not going the way I want them to go? Especially if we're in a situation that's become dire or threatening or creating panic because it's right up here in our face, needing our attention. How do we turn those thoughts off? Well, for those of us that are more on the logical side, well, I have something that may make logical sense. If we have something that we want to come true, then why not guide our thoughts that direction? Logical, right? You know, I mentioned this recently. The one day that I realized that I would wake up and say affirmations, or I'd look at my vision cards and I would do my morning workout routine and I'd be reciting affirmations quietly to myself, very focused on my dreams. And that night, I might have been able to add up an hour a day. I mean, not bad affirmations and vision cards for an hour a day, right? But what I didn't realize was that the other 17 hours of my day, I had thoughts running through my head that were disempowering. 17 hours a day of disempowering thoughts. So, an hour a day of good thoughts and 17 hours a day where I was shooting myself in the foot. And this is why I so often say that we have to use practice and discipline to get to where we want to go. We're breaking patterns that are very well grooved in. So, what if we could spend 17 hours a day directing our thoughts, directing the river where we want it to go, and only 1 hour a day thinking and worrying about the chitter chatter inside of our heads? What if we could be in the vibrational frequency of our inner being? What if we could think the way our inner being thinks? If we could do this for 17 hours a day, gee, wonder what kind of answers we could get. Well, I think it's safe to say that most of us have that flipped. For most of us, we tend to think about what needs to be fixed, and then the struggle that we're in just won't resolve. Okay, I think you get the idea. So, our question today was, what can we do when we're just ready for things to break loose and change, but don't know how to get there? Exactly how to get there. We don't know whether to be in the flow or match a frequency or surrender or connect straight up to source or raise our vibration or visualize or use our affirmations. And the answer is really simple. When we're ready for things to break loose, what we want to do is be willing to allow a stream of consciousness from our inner being. And that really is the answer. When we want to break free from a struggle, we want to be willing to allow a stream of consciousness from our inner being. Because anytime we ask anything, our inner being has an amazing answer, but we don't want to hear it or we don't, give it time to formulate, right? We get so knotted up in our challenging situation that we can't hear. If we knew how much wisdom our inner being has and knows the answer to our obstacles, we could just relax into that stream of consciousness. It requires a little bit of trust. Well, maybe a lot of trust, but there is a vibration of the things we want. What we want carries its own vibration. We have to tune into and allow ourselves to perceive that vibration or that frequency so we can match it. We can perceive that vibration or that frequency by tuning in to our inner being. All right, time for an Einstein break. I'll put this quote up on the screen for us all to look at again because you know it's one of my favorites. When we match the frequency of the reality we want, we cannot help but get that frequency. I heard somebody say that if we look over the history of our planet and all the things we've been able to accomplish over hundreds of years, there wasn't some space shuttle that just brought us prosperity and abundance and all of our accomplishments. Thoughts become reality, and it's an exact science. So the unseen forces are waiting for us to use our thoughts to bring things into existence. The unseen forces are waiting for us to match the frequency of what we want so that it can flow into our existence. Our task is to allow the beautiful life we've designed to flow into our existence. And sometimes we just aren't so aware of what we're doing with our thoughts. And so that's why we're talking about this today. And remember, this goes both ways. When we're thinking about an obstacle or a challenge, we're making it more real and more firm in our reality. And then we get stuck in our challenge because we're matching the frequency of the challenge. If we're still stuck, if it hasn't broken free yet, it's because we've taken on the vibration of that challenge. But if we can use practice and discipline to tune into our inner being who knows the path to get us to where we want to go, then we're shifting our thoughts into a higher, more productive frequency. Maybe it won't be 17 hours a day, but just enough to get us where we want to go, just enough for things to shift. Now, for some of us, this is really hard to believe, but it's also really undeniable and very powerful, as in it's our hidden power to be able to use this resource called our inner being. We just have to learn to trust this resource. Okay, I'll give you a little tip on how this works and hopefully it'll make sense. As humans, we are very tangible people. We like to see physical evidence in order to believe in something. It's difficult sometimes for us to believe in the unseen reality, those things that are already created for us and are ready to come into our life experience if we'll disallow the negative thoughts that block that manifestation. But as long as we need to see the physical evidence and we're unwilling to trust the vibration of the thing we want, we'll never get more than what we have. Sorry to say, but that's how it works. So I'll say it again. As long as we need to see things in the physical, as long as we need to see that physical evidence and we're unwilling to trust vibration of the thing we want, we'll never get more than what we currently have. So if we're sitting in a place that's uncomfortable, let's say it's a bad financial position or a bad marriage or a job we don't love, if we need to see it change in the physical world before we believe any other possibility might exist, we'll never get more than what we're already seeing in the physical world. Make sense? I'm not trying to be all woo woo here. It's just the laws of the universe at work. So, the quickest path to what we want is to be in vibrational resonance with it. The quickest way to what we want is to be in vibrational resonance with it. In other words, if I'm in a bad financial position or a bad marriage or a bad job, then instead of thinking how bad it all is for 17 hours in my day, I need to flip it around and be in vibrational resonance of the new reality 17 hours a day, or at least until we see it change. And if I don't know how to do that, if I don't know exactly how to get where I want to be, whether to be in flow or match a frequency or surrender or raise vibration or say affirmations or all this, well, the quickest path to what we want is to be in vibrational resonance with it. It's the art of recognizing that the thing we want has a vibrational essence and we can match the frequency of the reality we want and watch that reality come right into fruition. Our inner being doesn't want all our negative ego thinking, but does want us to raise our vibration. All right. As we empower ourselves towards self expression and who we are at our core, without these negative thoughts and emotions that get in the way, we're choosing a higher frequency, higher and better thoughts, because our choice of frequency, our choice of more positive emotions, changes the course of our journey. So, reflecting back on everything we covered today, how can you apply what you've learned? What were your three favorite takeaways? Well, my favorite takeaways are one, that we can match the frequency of what we desire. And in doing so, we cannot help but get what we desire. That's pretty fabulous. Gotta love Einstein. My second favorite takeaway is that I love that we can use practice and discipline to begin to tune in more and more to our inner being who has all the answers we need. Maybe we start at 3 minutes, 10 minutes, 20 minutes. Maybe we go up to 17 hours a day. I don't know. But I love that we can use practice and discipline to tune in more and more. And my third favorite takeaway is that the quickest path to what we want is to be in vibrational resonance with it. Well, I hope this helps you as you're using the powers of alchemy to transform challenges and obstacles into positive new successes. This podcast is all about helping you have success on your spiritual growth journey. It's all about getting unstuck by unlocking your hidden power. But if you still can't get your head around what's got you stuck in life or in business, you can tell me about it. You can send me a question to questions at unlockyourhiddenpower.com, or you may not know that you can get a free copy of my latest book at unlockyourhiddenpower.com. You'll discover the 22 undeniable laws of alchemy and how to take a wrecking ball to doubt, worries, frustration, and indecision so that your challenges evaporate before your eyes. You can get your instant download at unlockyourhiddenpower.com. Well, thank you for joining me today, and I'm wishing you a life filled with all the alchemy you need to bring success to you. Feel free to share this video with anyone you know who's feeling stuck, and I look forward to seeing you on the next episode.